In this lecture, we're going to take a look at some of the control structures that we use in our programs, and we'll also introduce a little bit of Boolean logic. When we run a program, the computer can process that program in one of three different ways. One way is just by running it in sequence, meaning we run each line from the very start to the very finish. And this has basically been every single program we've done so far in this course. Another approach is by making a selection or a choice, and this is what we call a branch. The third approach is by using repetition, where we can take a statement or a group of statements and just keep repeating that over and over by using a loop. Now, the first approach allows us to do a couple things, but we're really limited with what we can actually do in our program. So we're going to focus more on the second and third options, the selection and repetition type structures. So as I was saying, by using selection and repetition, our programs can become more interesting and more useful. We can do a whole lot more with using selection structures and repetition structures than if our programs just went from beginning to end and did nothing else. By using selection, the idea is that the program can execute particular statements depending on one or more conditions. So if event A occurs, we run some lines of code. Or if event B occurs, then we run some different lines of code. So this branch just basically lets us alter the flow of the program by making some choice, making some selection of which set of lines of code do we want to run. So here we don't need to run all the lines of code. We can pick and choose exactly what lines of code we want to run. With repetition, we take a group of statements and we just repeat that a certain number of times. Now, the number of times we repeat it usually depends on one or more conditions. So this loop lets us alter the flow of the program by repeating some statements. So if we have some lines of code that we want to use several times consecutively, instead of having to write each line and just copy and paste it, we can just write it once and put it in a loop and just repeat it however many times we need. But before we can actually use our selection and repetition structures, we need to understand these conditions. So we've been saying that we can choose which set of lines of code we run, or we can choose how many times we run some code based on some condition. Well, what is a condition? A condition is an expression that evaluates to either true or false. And we use these conditions for determining the control flow of our program. So let's take a look at an example. So here's a statement we're saying score is greater than or equal to 90. So what this means, so this will be our condition. And what we're saying here is if the value of our score is greater than or equal to 90, then this condition is going to be true. And if our score is strictly less than 90, then this condition would be false.